The two pink lines burned into my vision, clearer than any sign I had ever asked for. I was pregnant. A wave of pure, crystalline clarity washed over me, so powerful it made me dizzy. It wasn't just joy I felt in that moment, but the sudden, thrilling snap of a lock clicking open. A door I didn't even realize was closed had just been thrown wide, showing me a way out. My name is Stella, and for over 6 years, I was the real manager of the Northgate Market's deli and bakery. I did everything a manager was supposed to do, from scheduling and inventory to training and quality control. The only thing I didn't have was the title on my name badge or the salary that went with it. That honor belonged to Jill. She had slid into the position that had been promised to me, all thanks to a carefully crafted lie and a convenient friend in the corporate office. From that day on, she became my shadow curse, a constant, draining presence that I was forced to work around. Jill was a master of the disappearing act. She'd take 4-day weekends without notice, leaving me to cover her shifts. She would consistently forget to place the supply orders for our busiest days, forcing me to scramble and call other stores, begging for a few boxes of cake mix or a case of turkey. Her laziness was only matched by her arrogance. She saw her job as a title, a status to be enjoyed, not a responsibility to be fulfilled. The actual work, the running of the department that kept customers coming back, was beneath her. That was my job. And I took immense pride in it. I was meticulous, patient. I was the one who knew the precise shade of blue a nervous mother-to-be wanted for her baby shower cake. I could salvage a wedding cake that Jill had left sitting out too long, fixing the leaning tiers and smoothing the buttercream until it was flawless again. My hands knew the work. They could pipe perfect roses, knead dough to the exact consistency, and train a nervous teenager how to use the meat slicer safely. My department was my domain, and despite Jill, I was determined to make it the best in the store. My professional pride wouldn't allow for anything less. But that pride came at a cost. The stress was a constant, heavy weight on my shoulders. I would come home with my back aching and my mind racing, replaying every mistake Jill had made that day and how I had managed to fix it just in time. My husband, Mark, was my rock. He would listen patiently as I recounted the latest disaster, a catering order she forgot to write down, a new hire she yelled at for no reason. He'd tell me I was too good for that place, that I should just walk away. But I couldn't. I had this misguided belief that if I just worked harder, documented everything perfectly, and never complained, management would eventually see the truth. They would see who was actually running the department and who was just collecting a paycheck. So I documented everything. Every missed supply order, every customer complaint about her attitude, every time I had to stay hours past my shift to clean up a mess she had made and walked away from. I compiled neat, detailed reports and handed them to the store manager. He would scan the pages, sigh deeply, and tell me he would look into it. He'd offer me a free coffee from the cafe for my trouble, as if a cup of burnt espresso could make up for the years of being undermined and overworked. Nothing ever changed. Jill was protected. Her friend in corporate made her untouchable, and she knew it. She would watch me fix her blunders with a smug little smile, knowing full well that my complaints would go nowhere. My competence was her safety net, and she exploited it every single day. Then came that morning in my quiet bathroom with the little plastic stick in my hand. Holding that positive test, I saw my entire life pivot on a single point. All the stress, all the missed holidays with my family, all the endless battles with Jill, they suddenly seemed so small, so pointless. My focus shifted instantly and completely. It was no longer about the bakery, or my pride, or proving Jill wrong. It was about the tiny, fragile new life that was depending on me. I couldn't bring a child into a world where their mother came home exhausted and defeated every single night. That evening, I showed the test to Mark. The look on his face, pure, unfiltered joy, erased any doubt I had left. He wrapped his arms around me, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel the weight of the bakery on my shoulders. I just felt peace. In that moment, looking at the future we were about to build together, I made a decision. My time at Northgate Market had an expiration date. I would continue to do my job, to be the professional everyone expected me to be. I would work right up until the day my maternity leave began. And then I was never, ever coming back. A huge weight lifted from me, replaced by a quiet, thrilling sense of freedom. Jill had no idea. Management had no idea. They all thought I was the loyal workhorse who would clean up their messes forever. They were about to find out how wrong they were. They were about to find out how wrong they were. And the first piece of the puzzle fell into place at my first ultrasound appointment, in a dimly lit room that smelled of rubbing alcohol and cool gel. The doctor pointed to a flickering, grainy shape on the screen. "There's your little one," she said, her voice warm. "Heartbeat is strong. Based on the measurements, your due date is April 10th. My own heart skipped a beat, but not for the reason she thought. I smiled, thanked her, and clutched the blurry printed photo all the way home. April, a slow, almost maniacal smile spread deep in my soul, a feeling I hadn't experienced in years. April was the calm before the storm. It was the last breath before the plunge into graduation season. May and June were our two most profitable, most demanding, most cake-heavy months of the entire year. It was the time when my specific skill set, the ability to pipe intricate lettering on 50-sheet cakes in a single day, to perfectly match a school's colors in buttercream, to organize 100 custom orders without a single mistake, was not just valuable, but absolutely critical to the department's survival. For the first time in years, the thought of the graduation rush didn't fill me with a sense of weary dread. Instead, I felt a spark of cold, beautiful, and perfectly calculated justice. The universe hadn't just given me a way out. It had given me a weapon. That afternoon at work, the weapon practically loaded itself. A furious customer was at the counter, holding a box with a cake that had the name Brian misspelled as Brain. I knew instantly it was Jill's handwriting. She had taken the order and clearly hadn't bothered to double-check it. Jill saw me from the office and waved me over, not even bothering to get up. "Stella, can you handle this?" she called out, her voice dripping with bored annoyance. "This guy is having a meltdown over a little typo. You know how to calm them down." The old me would have been frustrated, embarrassed for the department. The new me simply looked at the angry customer, then at Jill lounging in her chair, and felt nothing but a profound sense of calm. This was just another data point for my experiment. "Of course, Jill. I'll take care of it," I said, my voice perfectly even and professional. I spent the next 20 minutes apologizing to the customer, scraping off the icing, and flawlessly repiping his son's name. I even gave him a 10% discount, which I knew would come out of our department's margins. After he left, satisfied, I walked back to the prep area. I pulled out my phone and opened my calendar. There it was, a recurring reminder set for the first of every month. Remind management to post a job listing for a second cake decorator. I had created it 6 months ago after the last holiday rush almost broke me. I had warned them repeatedly that I was the only person with the skills to handle high-volume custom orders and that it was a massive liability. They had shrugged and told me the budget was tight. My finger hovered over the notification for a moment. My duty was done. My warnings had been ignored. I pressed delete. From now on, I would simply let the consequences of their inaction play out. My revenge was not a loud, angry explosion. It was a masterpiece of malicious compliance, built brick by brick using the very tools of the professionalism they had taken for granted. I used my meticulous skills not to build their profits, but to prepare for a controlled and spectacular demolition. The first brick was my official notice. I typed a formal, polite letter to the store manager, officially informing him of my pregnancy and my expected last day of work before my maternity leave began. I included the doctor's note and cited the company's own policy handbook. It was perfect, professional, and completely unassailable. The next bricks were the emails. Every 2 weeks, like clockwork, I sent a follow-up to my manager and carbon copied his boss. "Just following up on my previous notice," I would write. "I want to reiterate the critical need to hire and train a replacement cake decorator as soon as possible to ensure a smooth transition before the graduation season rush." The responses were always the same, vague assurances. Thanks for the reminder, Stella. We're looking into it. We have a few things in the pipeline. But I saw the job boards. I knew our district's hiring manager. Nothing was in any pipeline. They were doing nothing. Jill saw one of my emails on my computer screen once and scoffed. Are you trying to replace yourself already? She laughed. Relax, we'll survive without you for a few months. It's just cake. Her ignorance was so profound it was almost breathtaking. She had no concept of the skill, speed, and organization required to get through May. She genuinely believed the cakes just magically decorated themselves. In her mind, the profits that paid her salary were an accident, not the result of my 16-hour days and aching wrists during our busiest season. Her overconfidence was my greatest ally. The final, most beautiful piece of my plan was my last move. I logged into the employee portal and looked at my records. Over 6 years of skipped breaks, shortened lunches, and unused personal days had left me with a treasure trove of paid time off. 3 full weeks, to be exact. With the calm precision of a surgeon, I submitted my vacation request. It was for the last week of March and the first 2 weeks of April. It would lead directly, seamlessly, into the official start of my maternity leave. It created an impenetrable wall of unavailability right when they would need me most for prep. I wasn't just leaving at my due date. I was legally and contractually disappearing 3 weeks before then, taking every last second that this company owed me. I was removing the department's only pillar, and I was leaving them with the architect of its ruin, Jill. I was removing the department's only pillar, and I was leaving them with the architect of its ruin, Jill. The most beautiful part of the whole plan was that I wasn't even there for the explosion. I was miles away, in a quiet, sterile hospital room that smelled faintly of antiseptic and baby powder, holding my newborn son. He was so small, so perfect. His tiny fingers were wrapped around one of mine, and his chest rose and fell in a steady, peaceful rhythm. My husband, Mark, was asleep in the uncomfortable-looking chair in the corner, a tired but happy smile on his face. This was my new world. Quiet, calm, and a million miles away from the chaos I knew was about to erupt. My phone, which I'd set to silent, began to vibrate on the bedside table. It buzzed once, then again and again. A continuous, frantic stream of notifications. I gently shifted my son in my arms and reached for it. The screen was lit up with a wall of texts from Sarah, one of the few deli clerks I had actually liked working with. Her first message was simple. Oh my God, Stella, you are not going to believe this. The messages that followed painted a picture of beautiful, predictable disaster. Jill had, as I knew she would, scheduled herself a 4-day weekend. She had decided that the first weekend of graduation season was the perfect time for a little getaway, leaving a skeleton crew to handle the busiest days of the year. Sarah's texts grew more frantic. There are 19 custom grad cakes on the order list for today. 19. None of them are even started. Jill didn't prep anything. We've been calling her for an hour, but her phone goes straight to voicemail. I could picture it perfectly. The line of furious customers snaking past the floral department, clutching their order slips. Parents who had paid in full weeks ago, expecting a masterpiece for their child's special day, being told their cake didn't exist. I could almost hear the shouting from my quiet hospital room. Management, predictably, was scrambling. Sarah's next text read, "They pulled Kevin from produce and Maria from the front registers to help. Kevin is asking me how to mix the buttercream. Maria is trying to write congratulations with a piping bag, and it looks like a spider had a seizure." A quiet, satisfied smile touched my lips. I had warned them for months. I had laid it all out in polite, professional emails. They had ignored every single word. Now they were reaping what they had sown, with a produce clerk who thought icing came from a can. Then came the final, perfect text, the cherry on top of this chaotic cake. "You are not going to believe this. The district manager just walked in for a surprise inspection. He's standing by the counter with the store manager, watching a lady scream about her son's law school cake." It was better than I ever could have imagined. It was chaos. It was justice. It was perfect. I put the phone down, kissed the top of my son's head, and closed my eyes, soaking in the peace of the moment. Just then, my phone began to buzz again, but this time it was a call. The screen showed the store's main number. I let it ring twice, took a deep breath, and answered, keeping my voice soft so I wouldn't wake the baby. "Hello." It was the store manager, and his voice was dripping with a level of pure, undiluted panic I had only ever dreamed of hearing. "Stella, thank God, we need you. Can you just come in for a few hours, please? It's an emergency. Jill left us in a real mess." They didn't even know. They hadn't bothered to check my file or note the reason for my absence. In their minds, I was just Stella, the reliable fixer who was probably at home, just waiting for their call. I looked down at my tiny, perfect son, sleeping soundly in my arms. I thought of the 6 years of stress, the missed holidays, the constant disrespect. I thought of Jill, probably sipping a drink somewhere, completely oblivious to the fire she had started. My voice was clear and steady when I replied, "I'm sorry, Dave, but I can't. I'm on vacation." I paused for a beat, letting the words hang in the air. "And I won't be coming back." Before he could even process it, I hung up. I blocked the number and set my phone back down on the table. A wave of finality washed over me, so clean and refreshing it felt like a cool breeze. It was over. Minutes later, one last text from Sarah came through. It was a picture, a screenshot of the newly posted work schedule for the following week. My eyes scanned the page until I found her name. Jill. She was scheduled for 40 hours, not as deli bakery manager, not even as my old assistant manager role. Her new title was listed in stark black letters. Cart attendant. They hadn't just demoted her. They had banished her from the department she had ruined, sending her to the one place her arrogance would be punished every single day. The parking lot. Her new title was listed in stark black letters. Cart attendant. They had banished her from the department she had ruined, sending her to the one place her arrogance would be punished every single day. The parking lot. I heard from my old coworker, Sarah, that Jill lasted exactly 2 weeks pushing carts in the summer heat. Apparently, her friend in corporate couldn't protect her from a district manager who had witnessed the graduation day massacre firsthand. But they couldn't fire her, so they found her a new home indoors, the produce department. 6 months later, my life is unrecognizable in the best way possible. The frantic buzz of the bakery has been replaced by the quiet hum of a baby monitor. The constant, nagging stress that lived in my shoulders for years has vanished, replaced by the gentle weight of my son sleeping on my chest. My entire world now smells of baby powder and warm milk, not burnt sugar and industrial cleaning solution. I'm a stay-at-home mom to an amazing, giggling little boy named Leo, and he is the son my entire universe now revolves around. The old Stella, who lived and died by production schedules and inventory counts, feels like a person from someone else's story. I still bake, of course. My hands remember the motions too well to ever stop completely. But now I bake for fun. I bake a simple vanilla cake for my husband, Mark, just because it's a Tuesday. I bake small batches of cookies without a deadline, without a demanding customer, without Jill looking over my shoulder and asking when they'll be done. The joy is back. One afternoon, I strapped Leo into his carrier and went to my old store to do some grocery shopping. It felt strange to walk through the automatic doors as a customer, not an employee. I pushed my cart down the aisles, grabbing milk and bread, my mind on my shopping list, not on the staffing crisis I knew was probably happening in the bakery. Then I turned into the produce aisle, and there she was. Jill was stalking heads of lettuce, her movements jerky and angry. She wore the standard-issue green polo shirt, but it was wrinkled and fit her poorly. Her face, which was usually set in a mask of smug superiority, was now a thundercloud of resentment. She practically threw the lettuce onto the refrigerated shelf, her expression making it clear she wished it were a grenade. Our eyes met for a fraction of a second. I saw a flash of recognition, followed immediately by a wave of pure, bitter hatred. She looked away instantly, turning her back to me and pretending to be intensely interested in a crate of tomatoes. She couldn't even look at me. I felt nothing. No triumphant glee, no lingering anger, just a quiet, detached pity. She was a ghost from a life I no longer lived. I adjusted Leo in his carrier, whispered something to him that made him smile, and continued down the aisle. Just as I was heading toward the checkout, a familiar voice called my name. "Stella, is that you?" It was Dave, the store manager. He hurried over, a desperate, hopeful look in his eyes that I recognized instantly. "It's so good to see you, and this must be the little one," he said, smiling weakly at Leo. "Listen, I know it's a long shot, but I have to ask. The bakery is, well, it's not the same without you." He lowered his voice, leaning in conspiratorially. "We never found a real decorator. We can give you the manager position. Full salary, benefits, whatever you want. Please, just think about it. We are drowning back there." I listened politely, shifting my weight from one foot to the other. I looked at Dave's tired, pleading face. I thought of the frantic phone call to my hospital room. I thought of Jill, fuming amongst the vegetables. Then I looked down at my son, his big, curious eyes staring up at the bright fluorescent lights. A genuine smile spread across my face. I gently patted Leo's back, feeling his warmth against my chest. "No, thank you, Dave," I said, my voice calm and clear. "I appreciate the offer, but I have everything I want right here. I'm happier now." I didn't wait for his response. I just nodded, pushed my cart toward the register, and left my old life behind for good. And as the automatic doors slid shut behind me, I took a deep breath of the fresh afternoon air, my son cooing softly in my arms. And I truly am.